Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. Monthly Report. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome everyone to the National Federation of the Blind, Indiana Monthly Report Newsline. So we are here today to share a lot of information with you regarding the services of the National Federation of the Blind. And today we have some great guests from the Indiana Governor's Council for People with Disabilities. This is Disability Awareness Month, and we're going to shed a little light on that, no pun intended. But what we're doing with the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, it's an information and referral service. It's an information service. Florence, you want to talk a little bit about that today?
I sure can. Now, NFB Newsline, as we call it, the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, is a free service for the blind and visually impaired. It gives, well, not just for the visually impaired, but also for people coping with dyslexia, neuropathy, and other print challenge conditions. It gives us access to over 460 newspapers, magazines, gives us access to TV guide listings, Target, Walmart circulars, as well as other news. And so what's so amazing about this service is that it is an audio service and it is free.
And it's free to the point to where you can read your newspapers and magazines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, independently on your own time, and it's very innovative. So watch the commercials as they have the pertinent information as to how to contact and some of the great individuals that are in the commercials with good information about the service. And we'll be right back here on WHMB 40.
Thousands of Indiana residents feel isolated from the world due to vision problems. Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm blind. I read Stars and Stripes on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Indiana Newsline Monthly Report. This is a service that is provided by the National Federation of the Blind, and it's also sponsored through Indiana with the Talking Book and Braille Library Services. And today we have several guests here from the Indiana Governor's Council for People with Disabilities. Florence, would you want to introduce our guests today?
Sure. I'm pleased to welcome here Miss Brandy Dickerson as well as Miss Elizabeth Goldman.
Well, welcome to the show, ladies. How are you today?
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I tell you, it's a pleasure to have you guys here today, and we have a lot to cover. And this is Disability Awareness Month here. You want to explain a little bit about what is the mission of the Governor's Planning Council for People with Disabilities?
Okay. Well, the Governor's Council for People with Disabilities, sometimes you might see the acronym GCPD. Anyways, their mission is to promote the advancement of independence, productivity, and inclusion of people with disabilities in our society.
Well, let's expound on that a little bit. You know, when we talk about the mission itself, it's a very important mission, and the Governor's Planning Council. You know, I had to tip my hat off to them for working so diligently. There's a number of people there that just keeps the ball rolling. And you want to name a few of those people?
Sure. The executive director is Christine Dahlberg, and the deputy director is Chad Crow, and then the director of grants is Kate Barrow.
Okay. So, so with the Governor's Planning Council for People with Disabilities, how long have you guys been active in that?
Actually, both of us are graduates of their Partners in Policy Making program, and so I am actually a 2017 alumni.
I'm a 2009 alumni.
She's the seasoned one.
And, you know, I also am a graduate as well. And, you know, let's tell people about that program there.
It's been an amazing experience, and I've been involved with disability advocacy for over 10 years, and I will say of all of my experiences, that was probably the best decision I ever made was to apply there. And so what it is a training program for people with disabilities or family members of people with disabilities, and the Governor's Council coordinates this, and every month they bring people together to learn about just different aspects of disability advocacy. So you might have a topic on, you know, disability rights in the independent living movement, or specifically on special education. So just different aspects of how people with disabilities are really impacted in the different areas of the community. And so their focus is to really train on not only helping these individuals to become informed about the different issues, but also putting that into action. So here's how you can be an effective disability advocate, and not just in your, you know, tunnel vision area. So for example, if you're a parent of a child with autism, you certainly want to learn how to advocate for them for a free and appropriate education through the school system. But you don't want that to be the only area that you're involved with, I guess. And so in order to expand that to have a larger impact and collective organization for the disability rights movement, really trying to get people together to do it across the board. So.
Okay, and Elizabeth, so actually what prompted you to get involved with the Governor's Planning Council?
I would say specifically why I applied to that program. My graduate study actually was in disability studies, and so I'm very knowledgeable about the historical aspects of disability as well as the cultural ones. And I'm a detail-oriented person, so I'm kind of the policy person. And so even though I'm well-versed on laws as they exist now, the area where it was just a blank space is how to actually get involved in the legislative process to not only create new laws or adapt the ones that already exist. And so that was an area, you know, that I knew that I was just ineffective, and so I wanted to get involved in, not only here in the state of Indiana, but hopefully even on national level as well. So
I know as well, I, being a blind citizen, what encouraged me to get involved was I wanted to step outside of blindness and just see, you know, as a total picture, to get a better view of, you know, how we are being impacted as citizens with disabilities. You know, we do have the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the year that I went through, we had the pleasure of being critiqued by Mr. Robert Silverstein, and I really enjoyed meeting him, and just a wealth of information there from him.
And I think another thing that's really nice about how they organize it, as far as the applicants in that selection process, is they have a really good diverse group of people that are impacted by disability. And so, for example, if you are a person with a disability yourself, your experience going through life and maybe how you experience different barriers is going to be very different from the perspective of a parent who's a child of a person with a disability. And I think it's just eye-opening even for a lot of the parents, truly, because you'll see that even in the advocacy world, sometimes with competing interests. And so for them to be in that environment and exposed to disability, I think it really drives home the point that, you know, if we're trying to advance the disability rights movement, then it's not about other people making decisions for us. It's how are we involved to kind of spearhead what that is. And so for the parents to see that and really see how people with disabilities can be empowered to kind of move that forward was a really nice experience as well.
And it goes right back to the mission, you know, all the different aspects
Absolutely.
of, you know, what we can be capable of doing. Oftentimes people want, you know, I think people feel that that we're basically have a handout when we can be valuable members of and viable members of our society. Now, I know we work a lot with the legislature and the school systems. I mean, we're in all aspects of society with all types of disabilities.
And that's just to kind of touch on that point. For the Governor's Council, part of their mission, one is to promote the advancement of inclusion of people with disabilities, and that seems to be a popular buzzword these days across most marginalized communities that might exist. And so it's really trying to educate the public that inclusion is not just about your physical presence in whatever space and environment that might be. It's about how do they have meaningful participation and equal access to do that. And so just trying to educate others on what that means and what actually is inclusion, that's going to be part of how they can be more involved in society.
And you know, that also lends to the fact that, you know, we do have a high rate of unemployment, which is 70%. And, you know, it's just disgusting to see that we have such a high rate when we have some very magnificent people with very good skill sets and capabilities to be inclusive into our society. Absolutely. You know, just for instance, what type of work do you guys do?
I work for the Indiana Statewide Independent Living Council, and so I am their Director of Public Policy, Systemic Advocacy, and Special Projects, which actually, again, that's what the Partners in Policymaking program really helped get me kind of experience for, is again that policy side, and you know how to go to the State House and stand before Senate or House of Representative committees and provide testimony on how different bills that might be proposed impacts the disability community. So that was, again, a great thing for me.
What about you, Leslie?
I work for Easter Seals. I work in the employment division. I help individuals maintain their job, and I job coach them so they can do very well on their job. Actually, Easter Seals does a variety of things. They do autism to early childhood to driving education, technology, assisted technology. They've been around for 80 years, and they serve over 7,000 individuals. I also work as a realtor. I'm a broker realtor. And I also work at the Lucas Oil Stadium during the season for the Colts.
Well, you're definitely not part of that 70%. Keep listening.
I work quite a bit. And to also go back to the partners, I got involved because of my disability, and I've been in the disability community basically all my life. So I got involved, and I really wanted to network with other individuals with disabilities and to know more about resources and to network with other individuals.
And that's even, I mean, resources, not even just in knowledge and skill sets, but people. I mean, it really does
and what we're going to do,
like a family.
We're going to come back with this conversation because we had to take a commercial break. And we'll be right back with our guest and we'll in a few minutes. So enjoy the commercials, get your information together so that you can gather this information that's going to be on our commercials. So we'll be right back.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana Monthly Report. We have our guest here from the Governor's Planning Council, and I wanted to ask you a question, Elizabeth, about for people who have not heard of the Governor's Planning Council. Can you give me a little bit of information as to where or who they would actually contact to get more about this?
They're located in the Government Center South, so in Indianapolis, and you can go to their website or give them a call, which the information I believe is going to be displayed on your screen, and you can ask it for anyone that's there. They're all very helpful, so I'm sure that depending on what your reason for calling is or how you want to get more involved, it can direct you to who the most appropriate person would be to speak with.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and this particular month of March, we have the March Disability Awareness Campaign. And let's talk about that campaign. What is that all about?
Well, the video basically is talking about inclusion and that be who you are and that we are the same. We have differences, but that we're all included and that...
Which means don't make it awkward.
Yes, don't make it awkward. Be comfortable with who you are, and to allow that individual to interact with each other is what it comes down to. And I would recommend you go to #BeCoolWeAre or IndianaDisabilityAwareness.org, and you can look at the video that we were involved in.
You gonna count me down?
We have disabilities.
And we make you uncomfortable.
It's why you love to vote as prom king.
Do you remember us on Monday?
You are afraid to see us fail.
It's why you place us in jobs.
With few challenges.
We make you nervous. So you do really silly things.
Like talking louder.
To someone who's blind.
Now, think about that.
And then take a deep breath.
Relax.
Relax.
Just be yourself.
Be you.
Just be cool.
Because most certainly,
I am.
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 This guy is.
We are.
Help us celebrate Indiana Disability Awareness Month just by being you.
Please show your support by sharing this video.
I enjoyed being a participant in that video as well. So tell me, how did you guys get involved in that video?
As far as kind of different people they reached out to, this kind of goes back to disability is not a one-size-fits-all terminology. It's actually very much so an umbrella term. And so really trying to get different people, again, their experience with disability, And so, for example, I have an invisible disability. I live with mental illness. And so unless I choose really to divulge the information to other people, they may not necessarily know that. So their interactions with me may be very different than someone maybe with a physical disability that they are clearly aware of. And especially right now in the media, mental illness seems to be a very popular topic, not necessarily for positive reasons. And so again, just letting people know we're the same as you. And so as far as, you know, being marginalized even within the disability community, showing that it's a very diverse group as well.
I got involved because I have a physical disability and I have a slight learning disability. I have cerebral palsy, which I'm actually very proud of. It helps me to understand other individuals with disabilities and how the world is, and I'm thankful for that. And so I wanted to be involved in this to tell other people that we are cool. We are who we are. No matter what we do, we can do almost anything if we put our minds to it. And I think sometimes people like to put individuals with disabilities in a box. And so it's not always true. You know, it's like you could do whatever you want to do. And so I wanted to show the world that, hey, look at us, we are cool.
I think that even goes back to what we were discussing earlier, Lee, about inclusion and what that means. And so I think it's natural for people to kind of fear what they're not familiar with. So if they've never had a reason to be exposed to disability, which goes back to the inclusion part, because they're probably not there, there's a lot of misconceptions that people have about disability, usually that they might receive through the media or other formats. And so even just an awareness for other people, again, don't make it awkward, be cool, you know, we're just like other people. And so,
you know, we get dressed in the morning, you
That's
know.
so inspirational.
Yes. I mean, we you know, travel. You know, I've traveled across the world and, you know, several times. And, you know, I own my own home. You know, I have my own vehicle. And, you know, my doctors, when I was younger, thought I would never be able to ride a bike. And I did that. Roller skated. Bungee jumped in New Zealand.
You are cool.
I haven't jumped out of a plane yet, but you know, I've actually been on the Boundary Waters in Minnesota, Canada, and I've been on the Gully, rafting on the Gully and the Upper Gully. So it's like, you know.
I'm feeling really mediocre right now.
So it's like you can do whatever you want to be. You know, and it's like sometimes even with people with cerebral palsy, I've learned through the years that, you know, there's an individual, I read an article, and I don't know where that article is, but that a person with CP has actually done surgery. And please don't put me under surgery. That would not be good.
Not on your bucket list?
No, that would not be something I would want to be. I've heard people be directors. I've actually heard that there was a guy in the military that they didn't know he had cerebral palsy, and he was able to be in the military, but they never found out.
And even in our video, one of the individuals is an attorney.
Yeah.
Again, more accolades than I have.
Well, I tell you what, I enjoyed the diversity of the video. I mean, the energy of all the participants in the video. Just trying to express, you know, that just because we have disabilities, you still can live the life you want. It bothers me oftentimes with how people perceive individuals with disabilities when it comes to our daily lives.
Absolutely.
And when we're looking at 70% unemployment rate, and then also in the educational system. But I do find that for the most part, that most of our legislators, particularly here in the state of Indiana, they really do work hard and diligently toward the efforts that we put forth to them. and try to understand, hey, you know, how can we be more inclusive? How can we make it so that these individuals aren't discriminated against and set aside?
Which, going back to awareness and education, that is something that even, you know, as individuals we can do to kind of help with that process is go to your lawmakers, and they can't, you know, help advance your rights either if they don't understand it, which is actually usually the case. And so making that point of contact with them to help create that awareness as well, if they're going to be the ones ultimately responsible for those decisions.
Yes, and we have to, you know, be in front of them to let them know, you know, constructively and collectively how we can benefit and how we can be constructive members of our society as well. So we're going to take a short pause, and we'll be right back here on the National Federation of the Blind Indiana Newsline Monthly Report.
I just graduated college as a blind student. How can I independently find job listings?
Thanks to the National Federation of the Blind, visually impaired Hoosiers can hear newspapers, circulars, and magazines from across the globe.
It is a fantastic service.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
The National Federation of the Blind knows that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we raise the expectations of blind people because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. You can live the life you want. Blindness is not what holds you back.
Well, it's been a great show, and I'd like to thank our guests, Brandy and Elizabeth, for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And please get a hold of the Governor's Council, because we have kits, we have little
informational pamphlets and handouts.
Yes, that you can hand out out in the community. Please get the word out about
and share the video on your social media accounts for sure.
Yes, please do. And we are cool.
We are cool. So just be cool.
Be cool.
Be cool.
I said we are cool, but be cool.
Be cool.
Be cool.
Just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're not cool. Is that right, Florence?
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you once again for coming on and sharing such great information. And we'll look forward to collaborating and doing some more work in the very near future.
Thank you, Lee.
All right. Thank you. Be blessed.
The National Federation of the Blind Indiana Monthly Report. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.